Namaskar and a very good morning to all of you. This is Shilpa Bhavna and I welcome you all to this virtual conference on the platform of ASSOCHAM India. Today we are going to explore our horizon towards Work Vision 2021. This is going really interesting because what we are going to talk about is HR in the new normal and beyond. Friends, when we say the human resource, it is not actually HR drives our businesses. This pandemic, before the pandemic, when HR has to actually drive the businesses, the human resource present in the offices, they in front of them, they can do some policy makings like along with the conversations that they want to do with their employees right on there. But after the pandemic, the things have changed. So as we are saying that it's a new normal, so we are on the platform now, what we call the virtual. So even if when we are connecting with our employees or with our human resources, it's all the virtual, the digital thing. So how much challenging it is going to be for the HR now, and especially when I say that HR is driving the businesses, so how much difficult it is going to be for it to run the businesses in this particular situation, because ultimately we all want our businesses to flourish and HR is the pillar. So my dear friends, we are going to answer all these questions in this Work Vision 2021. We have got like esteemed panelists over here with us. I would like to invite them one by one so that they can share their views with us. And to start with, I would like to request the Secretary General ASSOCHAM, Mr. Deepak Sood, to please present the welcome address. Please welcome him, my dear friends.
Thank you, Bhavna. Unfortunately, work from home has also brought on a challenge with technology. While we have learned how to do that,
Right.
but I possibly was not able to hear quite a lot of what you were saying. So I assume you've given an out a detail about the program that is. So I will not take too long for the welcome, but I will share my personal thoughts around this space and then maybe give it back to you for inviting the others. So once again, a very, very warm welcome to our President Vineet, who's been leading this, the Chamber ASSOCHAM in a period which possibly is the most challenging time. I think wave 2 is being more challenging than the wave 1, and that's where we are. Naveen, of course, has been a very, very strong supporter of ASSOCHAM, and he does consider being with us as a priority. And thank you very much, and morning to you, Naveen, for joining us this morning. Nitin, thank you as a partner. We will look forward to your presentation. And Manoj, of course, you are the man who's helping us put this all together. So very broadly, I'm going to touch upon is that businesses have undergone a massive transformation. And businesses have always undergone transformations, but the rate of change, the time under which this change has come about, is actually very perplexing. And when you talk business, I think business has a construct of three sets. One is the entity itself, which is a lot of people inside. There's a supply chain, which is external facade, which is the ecosystem that enables this business to operate. And finally, I would say is the most important person, the consumer. I think between the wave 1 and wave 2, the way things have happened, there's a lot of trauma in the minds of consumer, in the minds of the business, in the minds of people who enable the whole piece. There's a lot of fear of the uncertainty that things are bringing with us. While we are really recovering, when we recovered from the wave 1 was quite remarkable. When we hit the wave 2, but I think the wave 2 is also now fading out. But the way it is fading out, a lot of businesses have opened, but there is a lot of impact that has come out on various sectors of industry. So is this sector, all sectors impacted the same way? No, I don't think so. This is a new normal, one is trying to say. So each normal for each sector is going to be a very different. If it's a steel producing unit, it's got a different normal. If it is a hotel and a service industry, it's a new normal. If it is an IT industry, it's a new normal. It's a banking industry, it's a new normal. So we actually do not know what is going to work and what is not going to work. What has really happened is during this period, people, individuals, businesses have struggled to adjust. And I've already spoken about this rate of change, which has been very substantial. And most of them have tried to survive this phase of problem. I'm just going to digress a little. This formalization of economy from a non-formal to a formal scale coming up with larger organizations. So larger organizations have been largely been able to handle this. And when we talk HR, it's in a caveat with that larger organizations have this. But I think in some sense, in every sense, even a small scale industry has a very informal way of HR, which is very personal. The owner would talk to his people. He may not have a formal department, but the way these people are dealing with this whole piece is something which is also to be. I think the expectations of all the three facades that I did speak about has changed. So it's not about, I'm an employee of ASSOCHAM. So my expectation from ASSOCHAM is very different. And when I talk about my employees as well, to what my stakeholders' expectations are. So it's a 360-degree review and view that one has to take. And I think this has made a fundamental shift, and the shift has happened. And we are into uncharted territories. Let me take an example of ASSOCHAM. Now, that's what I can empathize with. I can share it because I've gone through this. And I did talk about Vinny being with us during his period of pain. And very unfortunate period. So here came wave one last year, 2020, April. Our hands were up in air. We didn't know what to do. For 1 month, this organization was shut. We had no clue what. But those 30 days, I talked about survival, the people, the way the people managed the whole piece, the strategy, the coming together of things. And I think this was true for everybody. In about 30 days' time, we were up and about. And just to give you a small sense, we did the first program in 2019 December with the Prime Minister at Gyan Bhavan. But the second one that we did with him and his entire cabinet was online, which was seen by the world. So there was a huge shift that took place for this working space that one is talking about. We have touched upon 50 lakh people in the last 1 year with about 1,200 large events that we have done and meetings that we have organized. So this is a new normal for a company like ours, a chamber like ours. Work from home has become a new normal. There's another step that companies have taken. They say work from anywhere. Come back to this, I had never imagined that a chamber can work from home. I had never imagined a government can work from home. And the number of meetings that we did with the government and the impact that we will be able to bring about was far, far more than those physical meetings that we used to hold. So, the jury's out, what's going to work, how long is it going to last, I do not know. But my sense is this blended model is something that is something which is going to stay back here. And when I say all this, HR and its professionals have a huge challenge at hand. And I will close my talk by just putting out some of the challenges that I see with people who manage this piece, and they do a great job, and especially during this period when we had to help people, save people's families, reach out to them, to hospitals or medicines or treatment to them. It's a commendable job this fraternity has done. But the challenges to me going forward are, how are we going to deal with this flexible way of working? It kind of, how are we going to deal with security, physical as well as digital? How are we going to keep our people motivated? How are we going to show a career path to people? How are we going to control attrition? How are we going to get the right kind of resources? What kind of training needs to be done so that people are ready for the new kind of normal, which is very different for each sector that one is talking about? And the last point that I'm going to touch upon is every organization talks about a culture. And for generations one had spoken about, this culture can't change, and this culture needs to be maintained because that's the ethos of an organization. With this whole new piece thrown at us, how are we going to deal with an organizational culture of development and growth, and how will we continue to remain innovative is something that always intrigues me. And thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you once more, each one of you, for joining this morning. Back to you, Bhavna.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And it is rightly put in by you, sir. It's a huge challenge in front of us. And when we say like it's a challenge, so we need to understand is like life is just like 10% what happens to us and 90% how we are going to react to it. So as we are here with this challenge after the pandemic, so how HR departments and how this whole thing is going to react to it, this is going to be really interesting. So now, my dear friends, please join me in welcoming our next panelist who is going to present us the special address. He is the President of ASSOCHAM and Managing Director, Transport Corporation of India Limited, Mr. Vineet Agrawal. So, sir, I would like to request you to take him up.
Thank you, Shilpa. Uh, Thank you, Deepak, for your comments and really enlightening, really from the heart thoughts. Naveen, it's a pleasure to see you again. Mr. Nitin Sethi, Mr. Manoj Sharma, eminent guest speakers, national and international participants, and all of you attending this very, very pertinent subject today. I, on behalf of ASSOCHAM, would like to personally welcome you. Well, the last 2 years or year and a half or so has really taught us that the new challenges of the future are very different. What we can do is to prepare our organizations to be resilient and agile, and also respond to future crises from a position of strength. These have been very stressful times. Health and safety of our teams and their families have got compromised. Business models have gone through huge disruptions. Workplaces have gone through changes. Some of them might not even exist. And social equality has taken a huge hit. And at the organizational level, several major issues have come up. The need for purpose of a company or an organization is getting more and more pronounced, not just to be a responsible entity, but also if you want to be an employer of choice. So, purpose has become very, very critical. While productivity has gone up in many industries, it has also come down in many. Small and medium enterprises have been badly affected in this pandemic, especially in the areas of hospitality, tourism, and others. A radical shift across all facets of businesses and companies have led to a revamp in the leadership skill set. Leaders in all facets of business have had to spearhead their organizations through this uncertainty, stress, and change. From supply chain disruptions to disappearing demand to even searching for a hospital, leaders have had to evolve very, very rapidly and have had to be a rock for their organizations. The need for agility in workforce management with increased flexibility, increased outsourcing is very, very evident. So we are here at a conference today, which is going to touch on many aspects of work that is very dynamic and is changing. I'm sure that the report that will be released today and the excellent speakers that we have will talk more about it. I thought it might be better to talk about what should not change versus what is changing, and what organizations have to think about when they are broadly thinking about the HR practices. What should not change? Deepak alluded to it, but the most important thing is value systems, culture, and the ethics of the organization should not change. We have to be thinking about whether you're building an organization or whether you're building an institution. So from that perspective, these things are never ending. They are always going to be there. So value systems is the most important thing to remain. The second thing that should not change is empathy in the way that you're dealing with things, especially since you're thinking about long term. How are we going to build emotional intelligence in the company, in your organization? I can take the example of our group itself, who in the last, we have more than 6,000 employees. We did not lay off a single person. We did not cut anyone's salary. We gave them all on time, the regular increments, because we are thinking about the long term. We're thinking about how the organization can be a support for that family, for that individual, for the long term. And we have seen that when we've done employee satisfaction surveys, they have been really off the chart because companies really, individuals really relate to us because we are also thinking long term with that empathetic view. And the third thing that should not stop and should not change is the way that leadership development is taking place. By grooming youngsters, by grooming internal leaders, they have to be now looked at from a very multi-dimensional view rather than sitting in a classroom and giving them training. We're talking about different ways of training and learning today that have grown and have become so normal that we have to HR professionals have to change the way that they are thinking. whether it is leading to upskilling, reskilling, or new skills. These would be the area of focus on a regular and a continuous basis. So broadly speaking, these are the three things that I feel that should not change in this changing environment, in this dynamic environment. I'm very confident that today's conference with international professionals from the HR field, very interesting subject on work vision, would be beneficial to everyone who's attending the conference. And we at ASSOCHAM are also committed to bringing such path-breaking ideas and events which will help you to navigate this current environment and future environments as well. Thank you so much for having me today. Over to you, Shilpa.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. And Mr. Agarwal, you have actually correctly mentioned it out that in this dynamic situation, like what has not to be changed, that also needs to be given a lot of focus because this is really important. And you have pointed out correctly about all those things. And so here, when we talk about the HR, it is also like hiring is also one of the like most prominent things when we talk about the HR. So it's always being said that when you want to hire, you have to hire for attitude and you have to train the human resource for the skill. But when we talk about this post-pandemic thing, how we are going to judge that attitude and everything, I think these all things are going to be in question. And when we are talking a lot of things in this Work Vision 2021, I hope we are going to answer that also. So thank you so much, sir. With this, I would now like to invite the CEO, India and South Asia Human Capital Solutions, Aon, Mr. Nitin Sethi, who is going to give the theme address. So I hope he has some answers to my questions as well. So welcome to you.
Yeah, thank you, Shilpa. Thank you so much. And can I just request for a right to upload? I just had a couple of slides. I thought it'll be good to kind of.
Can we please have the slides that Mr. Sethi has shared with us?
Next one. I'm just putting it up just 1 second.
Yes, right.
It should be up any moment. So firstly, thank you for inviting me and giving us at Aon an opportunity to partner with you on this one. It's obviously a very it's an important topic, ever evolving, ever changing, and that's not something that's going to change over the next a couple of years for sure. Many of us thought of future of work or what the new normal is or what the future could look like in many different ways. 2 years back, 5 years back, but never did we ever think that we would hit a point in time where I actually think we ran possibly the world's largest experiment in the shortest possible window and touched and experimented with a bunch of things. Also, I don't think of this as new normal. When I speak to clients, I always say I think there are many lessons and learnings, and we're hopefully kind of getting to a place which is a better normal. As much as there are things that we would have to leave behind, I think there are many more things that we would get from what possibly the opportunity presents for us. I think how some of my speakers before me spoke of, I think it's not just how HR programs or HR organizations are transforming. I think so are businesses. I think the simplest example is buying patterns of consumers have changed. Where people live, sit, has changed. So in many, if business models are changing, I think organizations need to respond, and HR and talent needs to respond in that context. So things will keep evolving and changing. I think this is an exciting next couple of days, for us to learn from each other. And as consultants, we don't know the answers, and especially in a topic like this, we're working, learning, and sometimes from good work that we do, and I must admit sometimes from when you get in and do things and things don't quite fall in the right place, you learn from your mistakes, and that's a very honest admission of how sometimes things do happen. But again, exciting times in terms of where we are. Just moving on. Yeah, and this is the way I actually look at future world of work. I think we are all at a point in time, at a place where we need to make choices. choice to keep doing things the way we've done in the past. I think a lot of people will do that, and some will decide to go different ways, completely different ways from how things have happened in the past, and some will pick up learnings and experiences from the past and actually have a model that could in some ways work for the future and have a hybrid mix. But I think the important thing is to make a decision. The only thing I tell people when I do this is, make those choices based on facts that are out there, make those choices based on data. Don't let your previous biases come in the way of how things need to. I think workplace and workforce of the future both are different, and both will require a very different way of how do we respond and how do we deal with this. So important thing is to make those choices, make those changes, and do this. And we ran a survey globally. Close to about 2,000 companies participated, and we've been running this for last year, every couple of months. And it's a very simple framework: react, respond, recover, reshape. And what we're realizing is that in the early days, for most companies, as lockdowns happened, as things completely kind of no one had a model of how to deal with this. So the first way was to react to this, and companies went into a lockdown mode. The first response was over the next couple of months to conserve cash, because you needed cash when the growth window opens up or the businesses open up again, to be able to deploy that cash and deliver growth again. I think many companies are now in that zone of coming out of that react mode to building recovery strategies for themselves. And that's what the survey said for us. Those, I think, 6 to 7% companies still are in that early stage of figuring out how do they need to react, what do they need to respond, what could future mean for them. But increasingly, more and more number of companies are coming into this phase of saying, hey, we're beginning to see a new future out there, which is slightly different, both for our consumers as well as for our talent. And we need to start doing something about it. Over a period of, I would say, last 2 quarters, we've seen an increasing number of companies that are now beginning to say, we've absolutely accepted the fact that future is different. We're beginning to put these points down to say, this is what different could look like, what the new better could look like, and we're reshaping. And like a CEO of a large corporation told me a couple of weeks back, he said, if cash is king, talent is queen. And if I don't deploy my talent and do things well, I'm most likely to kind of stumble, falter, fail possibly in things of how happens, because who comes and works for me, how I engage that talent, what do I get them to do, how do they work together, what does culture really mean, could be very different in days to come. So we're increasingly encouraging companies to go down this path, identify steps and levers that will actually help them move from recover to reshape, because there will always be that early advantage of actually moving to a reshape zone. And when you move to a reshape zone, you will not have the final answer at one go. You will have to keep evolving, keep looking at things, and keep doing things differently in times to come. Now, again, people ask, how do you go around this process? Like I said, I don't define this as anything else but a new better that we're kind of getting into. I think the first part of this is to lay the foundation, to know where you are and what you want to be, and then start looking at your workplace strategies. Increasingly you will have, now today we have more diversified workforce than ever before. It's not just about men and women, it's about multi-generations at workforce. It's about increasing number of people turning gig, people turning, many of us could be joining this conference sitting out of a Darjeeling or a Goa or some other place, and that's not something that's happened before, and our workforces would. So how do you start working on remote locations? What should your strategies look like? At first go, companies are beginning to solve for this by looking at a cost perspective. But I think at point 2 or a stage 2 of this is, how do you start engaging with your employees? How do you start realizing that when people start coming back to work, who should come back to work? Again, one of the speakers spoke about gap in terms of leaders who will deliver results for the future. I think a lot of great leadership and leadership skills got us to where we are. I think to manage businesses in the future, we will require slightly different kind of skills. So how do you upscale? How do you, every company that we speak to is going through a digital transformation, whether it's a consumer company, whether it's a logistics company, whether it's financial services and many others. So how do you start looking at digital transformation? How do you start looking at what's the kind of talent that will travel the journey with you and for you? And the next thing is that once this talent decides to travel this journey and you've decided what kind of talent do you want, how does this talent grow? How does this talent, reshape the future? What kind of future skills do you need? How do you build those skills? A big question that's often asked is, what happens to reward programs? Do I pay less or do I pay differently if people are working out of locations that are not core to where I have my global operations? What are the future capabilities that I need? And then obviously in the future, in terms of how do you start looking at building workplace strategies, your technologies that will enable you? How do you start looking at culture? How do you start looking at engaging employees in a manner that actually gets you results? So companies have to go through this process step by step, find answers to it, keep remodeling, and keep looking at things differently. A lot of clients also say that what are these organizations doing differently that are getting ready possibly faster than many of the others as they look at future. Uh, I think at first step, I think it's acknowledgement of the fact that future could be slightly different, and they're beginning to actively look at what are the kind of skills that they need in the future. How do they hire those skills? And again, to a point that one of the speakers earlier mentioned, that what does an employer brand really look like out in the future? Over the last couple of months, we've seen a spike in attrition across literally every company that we speak to. Some of it is happening because people are rebalancing priorities. Some of it is happening because companies talent wants to find more meaning in the jobs and purpose in the jobs that they are doing. And how do they start engaging with them? So how do you start looking and building towards culture? Start taking first steps in that direction. I think early stages of this also was, which many companies are now past, is to look at what are our cost models. What kind of skills do we need? How do we, use mobility and deployment to be able to drive results for us in future? And again, how do we build our organization structures? Because many of our structures were built functionally. We had multiple functions that delivered goals for us. Increasingly, in the world of organization design and organization structures, many companies are looking at building agile structures. So, what do you expect out of jobs? What do you expect out of teams? How do you start building jobs and teams for impact rather than for process? I think that's what more future-ready organizations are doing, and are beginning to kind of put their minds to as they look at this. And again, I'm looking at this event and this conference to kind of look at many of us to share our experiences, find some of our answers as part of this journey. Again, 3-4 simple steps in terms of, I would say, encourage companies. It's time to start anticipating the future. Some of your anticipations and decisions may go right, may go wrong, but I think it's more important to take the decision than not to do anything. It's important to continue to adapt and adapt continuously. It's the first decision you take will not be the right, will not be the best. Models will keep changing. So how do you keep doing that? Keep employee experiences at the center. And that's important because you will employees are beginning to expect differently of what they think of workplaces. So keep employee experiences at the center, and most importantly, keep measuring the ROI on every initiative and every decision that you're taking as part of the process. Now, coming back to our next couple of days, I think it's packed with sessions of learning, sessions of great experiences. I would say storytelling, hearing from leaders, hearing from people who've done stuff on the ground. So whether it's about how do you start preparing your organizations for the future, I think a big topic is, what does gig talent and gig economy look like? How do we prepare our organizations? And similarly, what does scale up and build up of the future look like? Both as they look at consumers as well as they look at what their talent and people strategy looks like. So I think those are interesting, themes and thoughts for us to discuss and share our experiences. As Aon, we're bringing some of our thought leadership and thinking in. We've done a talent transformation study in APAC. Again, some of the slides I shared here came out of that to say how our company is looking at building a new future, a better normal in days to come. And again, the other big topical theme is about salaries. With attrition in, what does it mean for salaries and compensation increases? And not just for talent in general, but also for leaders. What does the new future look like from a rewards perspective for leaders? What kind of leadership skills, capabilities do we need to drive, great results in days to come? And what kind of compensation programs align to performance of business that we can do again? So there's a executive compensation survey highlights that are here. And there are obviously, sessions that we're doing, which are master classes on topics that could possibly help leaders and businesses take lessons out of experiences in the market around, how do you build an organization that looks at data from an HR perspective and use it well. What does being an HR business partner of the future really mean? And then one of the big things around is around code of wages and how does it impact our people, talent, and reward strategy. And then finally looking at executive compensation and how do you deliver results by giving leaders what they want, what you should, so that they deliver to results. So that's broadly the theme, and we're excited again to be partners on this one. And I look forward to engaging with the audience over the next couple of days. So thank you once again for the opportunity, and excited to be here. So Shilpa, back to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for enlightening us. Sir, here you have like rightly mentioned out one thing, that when we say talent, talent is the queen, and when this talent has to be like kept on going, so then motivation is very much required for all the human resource, especially when we are talking about the talented ones. So motivation is not a like one-time surgery; it is a like daily dose that has to be given to the human resources. But yes, post-pandemic, when workforce is evolving, then how to do that thing, how to maintain that thing. So let's try to get that answer from the next speaker, who is going to present the keynote address for today. He is the Managing Director of Hero Electric Vehicles Private Limited, Mr. Naveen Munjal, and he is going to enlighten us about evolution of workforce post-pandemic. So welcome, sir.
Thank you, Shilpa. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you, Deepak. It was a pleasure hearing you again. And thank you, Vineet. And Nitin, this was a wonderful presentation that you made. Pleasure to be here today. Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's well. So this last year and a half has been extremely challenging one. And it's been a highly, highly unpredictable one to say the least. The damage that this has caused to both human life, businesses is just immense. And we're still recovering from it. Each one of us has been affected in some way or the other, and nobody's been spared. Navigating this COVID-19 pandemic and its aftermath actually is going to be one of the biggest challenges that we would have faced in our lifetimes. To keep businesses running while maintaining the safety of employees is going to be paramount and critical. Most companies have adopted a new way of working in multiple ways, whether it's a hybrid, it's virtual, it's back to office, back to normal, working from home, or whatever be the case, while taking all precautions to ensure continuity going forward as well, which is going to be a very, very important factor now. That's going to become a norm. The last 18 months have taught us flexibility is a skill we need. Release attachment to outcome. In the true sense of the word, things are not in our control. And like the Gita said, karam kar, par phal ki ichha mat kar. This has been truly that moment of us doing the best that we possibly can without really realizing what is really going to happen thereafter, because none of us really knew what the outcome is going to be, how long, where this is going to head. So we as a company were very, very clear that we have to believe in the concept of positivity and not go down the spiral of negativity. It was very easy to do that in the beginning, but we chose to remain positive. We chose to keep our teams positive in that sense. We believed we just need to sit back in the discomfort of not knowing what is going to come next. So this is something that we learned in the last number of months, that just keep on pushing, and we really don't know what's really going to happen in the next this thing. When we look at the employability itself, when we look at the employment in India, when you look at the economy, prior to COVID, we had about 403 million people were the part of the workforce, and 35 million were unemployed before COVID. Each year, we have about 10 million new people joining into the workforce. However, in Jan 21, there were only 400 million people employed. So which means we've lost about 3.5 million from the earlier time, plus the 10 million who would have come in, plus this is 35. So that's a very, very large number of people who we've got unemployed. Now, this COVID has also caused a huge amount of panic and caused huge migration of workforce, which is causing an issue with the manufacturing sector. But when we look at it, the health and safety of the workforce has to be the management's top priority while ensuring to bring back business to some level of normalcy. Employees are counting on us as companies, as businesses, to ensure safety and well-being as we open up our factories and offices and warehouse and other businesses. Now, going forward, new protocols are needed at workplace in terms of whether it's sanitization, its density of occupancy, technology and AI wherever possible for contact tracing, working from home. All of those technologies are going to come into play. In the last year and a half, I can tell you some of the things that we followed as a company, as Hero Electric, some of the best practices. So we very quickly switched from increasingly work from home, considering health and safety of our employees. There was a lot of empathy and care which we had to really bring into the equation, which was there earlier as well, but now it was a very different one for the families, for the not just the employees, but their families. Reduction in command, let people take their own decisions when it comes down to it. Upskilling of the workforce, that's something that we did very, very effectively. So right from when the lockdowns began on March 25th of last year, from 5th of April, we had already started upskilling the workforce in terms of the new skill set that was required. And it's not just for the workforce, this was also to do with our dealer network, our sales network, training them on how to handle digital platforms, because we understood that it's not going to be a matter of, it's not going to be only an offline model. It's going to be a hybrid of offline and online. Both are going to work in sync with each other. We ensured no job losses at our end. We didn't let anybody go, and we barely had any attrition levels in the last year and a half. We went into a training module. So we started training up our employees. And we did about 3,000 training modules in the first 8 months alone of the COVID and lockdowns and all of that till last year. 70% of our workforce was working from home, and now that's about 30%, which is still working from home. Rapid reskilling is something that I spoke about. So we've reskilled our workforce. Changing leadership and management competencies. So we've been training our people in a different areas which they were actually not working in earlier, just to give them that flexibility of moving into different domains. We believe, and I've always been a believer of this, that transparency, trust, and openness is a very, very important factor. So we would have now numerous town halls where we were actually openly talking to people about both the good and the bad. So there was really you don't want your grave files to be running really all the time. And so we were being extremely transparent with them about what's really happening at the company level, what we're doing as a company level, what's happening at the industry level, and what's happening at the nation level. People were watching a lot of news, etc. But again, from our perspective, we wanted to bring them positivity. And agility is a very, very important factor. Vineet also spoke about this. So while I agree with Vineet what he was talking about in terms of the value system, the empathy and the EQ, etc., and long-term perspectives, I believe agility is another factor which is going to be a very critical one going forward. Now, when we look at various sectors, so while a number of sectors have been negatively impacted, a number of other sectors have also come up with the process. So if you look at, for example, hospitality, tourism, travel, hugely hit. But at the same time, we've got homestays and long-term rentals which have come into play. We've got the automotive sector, which got really badly hit, but now we've got electric transition happening towards electric because of this also. There's a switch push from what happened in the last year and a half. We've got all the hospitality, restaurants, etc. were shut down, and we had a problem there. While on the other hand, the delivery companies, we've already seen the valuations of Swiggy and Zomato, etc. in the last couple of weeks. Office rentals were hit, remote working came into play. We had conferences where we would have 200 or 300 people going into a conference and we were spending the whole day. Whereas now we've got virtual conferences going on right now where there could be hundreds of people from all over the world. So there has been, while there have been negative impacts, there have also been some positive impacts. While we've seen schools shut down and the children getting impacted, we've also seen e-learning coming in a big way. While we've seen entertainment sectors really getting hit, we've also seen OTT like Netflix, etc., really coming into in this massive way. So when we look at top companies, how they've adapted, how they've really adopted this whole pandemic in the last 18 months, number of companies, whether you look at TCS and Hero Electric and Dabur and Flipkart and Ernst & Young and RPG, the list just goes on and on. These companies have really put the employees first, and they've come up with novel ideas for how to handle the employees, whether it was arranging for a doctor on call, psychological counseling, to online meditation, to fitness sessions, to virtual team lunches, dedicated work from home hours to help household work, etc. Tech companies, on the other hand, came up with apps like contact tracing, etc. Of course, there are some issues relating to privacy, but nevertheless, that's where the technology is headed now. Numerous other tech companies, when you look at it, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, etc., they've joined the COVID-19 HPC, the COVID High Performance Computing Alliance, which is talking about bioinformatics, bioresearch, etc., where they're going to be using technology. We at Hero Electric have been doing a lot in terms of like I was talking about some of the factors, we've also been working a lot on the personal skills of people. So, talk about hobby clubs and sessions while focusing on positivity. End of it, the end goal is to come back to positivity. So while we hope and wish this is the last that we've seen of COVID-19, however, this time around, should it come back, we as a country, as companies, as corporates, medical community, would be far better prepared to handle it should it come our way again. And with this huge vaccination drive that we've already got going on, hopefully we're going to be living in a much better and a safer country and a world moving on from here on. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure being here.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, you have rightly mentioned that preparedness is really required, and when we are prepared for any kind of situation, I think then we are like halfway done to win it. So thank you so much, sir, for your address. And friends, when we talk about anything to be done in a correct way, then or in a great way, we say, so great things are not done from the comfort zone, right? So we have to be a little discomfort to achieve those great things. So I hope that this pandemic had like given us a lot of lessons and experiences, and this is really going to impact our HR whole scenario as well to face this challenge. And now I would like to request the chair of WorkVision 2021, who's also the co-chair of ASSOCHAM National Council on IR, Policies, Reforms, and Senior Vice President and Head HR, Adani Electricity Mumbai Limited, Mr. Manoj K. Sharma, to please come here and present your concluding remarks and the vote of thanks. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Mr. Vineet Agarwal, President, ASSOCHAM and Managing Director, Transport Corporation of India. Mr. Naveen Mujal, Managing Director, Hero Electric Vehicles. Mr. Nitin Sethi, CEO, India and South Asia Human Capital Solutions, AON. Mr. Deepak Sood, Secretary General of ASSOCHAM. I take this opportunity to thank all dignitaries of our inaugural session for taking time out of your busy schedules and for sharing your valuable insights. Definitely, this is a very enlightening inaugural session for all the participants. What has been carved with your far-sightedness that has set the tone for the entire conference. Ladies and gentlemen, before I share a couple of my views on what has already been shared, let me introduce ASSOCHAM's National Council for Industrial Relations, Policy and Reforms. The National Council for IR and HR Policy and Reforms as an important arm of ASSOCHAM, while discharging its functions and aligning to Chamber's vision and mission deliberations on the issues and concerns which emerge from time to time by way of policy suggestions and recommendations, which are broadly covered under its purview. The Council closely works with relevant ministries at central and state levels and aligned to mandate of industrial policies and program toward enhancing the productivity, growing the employment, human resources, and competitiveness. The Council, through its advocacy program, establishes and promotes national and international best practices and promotes national and assists regulators and authorities in setting up and advancing the standards, sensitizes the government and stakeholders to adopt policies and programs which are best for sustainability of human resources. The Council also creates knowledge awareness, caters training and development, needs in various formats across country, and suitably recognizes the extraordinary contribution and efforts of professionals. Around 100 plus professional members representing various corporates and professions bring value to the Council, and I appreciate each fellow member who has contributed very recently by way of inputs to the comprehensive report presented to the Parliamentary Standing Committee of Labour, which was most appreciated by the Member of Parliament in the House. We look forward and invite members to join our council and be part of ASSOCHAM National Council for IR and HR Policies and Reforms. We'll send formal invite to participants in this regard. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Experiencing this pandemic over the last several months, as our dignitary has already discussed about it, all over the world, that continuous development is critical at the time of rapid technological change. We must be ready for any impending changes faster than we can put our new talents into practice. HR has been at the forefront together with CFOs and our CEOs as a leader of the businesses. And it will increasingly important to discover ways to help both business executives and employees with rationalization strategies, maybe optimizing and maximizing and leveraging the talent in our own businesses in order to adopt, grow, and flourishes. As Mr. Munjal has rightly said that 30,000 training modules, that's for reskilling and upskilling. That's marathon work that has been done during this time. During this time, a lot of challenges that has been posed on the businesses. Like Mr. Vineet Agarwal has rightly said that how empathy has been excellently demonstrated in their own organization. It is wonderful to see, sir. What is changing, what is not changing, I think that matters the most to all the businesses. Next few years may be full of new challenges for all of functions, and HR's main focus being an ensuring that the appropriate people are in the right place at the right time. That is arguably the only way to assure that businesses can compete on global scale. Also, the ability to the enterprises to adopt new technology, like Mr. Deepak Sood has said that, the how digital landscape has rapidly changed during this time, as well as willingness of the employees to do so will decide the success of the businesses. Pandemic has led the world to global reset to digital technology acceleration and indicators across sectors. Geographical regions and emerging technologies suggested the sustenance more prominently over growth. Global supply chains, domestic trade, local area delivery, workplace models, and people's lives and livelihoods have all been disrupted. All pre-tested risk management models have undergone review, revisit, adjustments to new challenge. It is in the times of such severe crisis that human grit shines, and so it did. 80% of the global workforce transitioned to remote working within 3 to 4 weeks of mobility restrictions. Tech sector's unseen agility led to glitch-free transition, and globally, work continued seamlessly during this time. This has also led to the rise of new narrative and added differentiators in a new work order, catalyzing innovation for impact, making it for the first time in top 50. India now ranks 48th in the innovation index with the government and the work and the organization. Digital data dominance behind the tech firms consistently strengthening their digital capabilities, adopting deep tech solutions, focusing on the usage of AI, cybersecurity, IoTs, chatbots, machine learning, everything put together. This is a new phase of the businesses, what we see now. Leadership, trust, and culture, like it has already been said, nurturing a scalable, secure, and collaborative environment. Firms with the support of the government is relentlessly working to build trust through transparency and nurturing our inherent leadership. Like Mr. Mujal has already said, in their organization, this is the DNA, transparency, trust, and openness, and agility. He has brought that it is the time to have an agile organization and agile workforce. Robust business delivery models, blended working models gaining traction, emergence of decentralized and distributed workforce during the pandemic has enabled businesses to work as usual, as well as enhance customer and employee engagement. Emergence of modern tech-savvy Indian enterprise that will position India as one of the leaders of emerging new world order. The foundation of this enterprise is to build trust, diverse digital talent, people-first innovation, responsible and ethical tech and governance, agility and resilience, and amalgamation of above advantages. With this, I would like to thank all eminent speakers and knowledge-seeking participants, ASSOCHAM's Agile Organizing Team members once again. Look forward to the participants joining us for the session 1, Preparing for the Future from 11 o'clock, where eminent leaders would discuss if organizations prepare to face changes in customer and talent needs in post-COVID ecosystem. Are they competitive enough to stay ahead in the market and gauge the changing dynamics? Thank you and have an enjoyable learning opportunity ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you so much, Sharma sir. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Naveen. Thanks, Viniji. Thanks, Nitin.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Viniji,
Thank
we'll
you
meet
a
at the
lot.
next
आप सभी
meeting.
लोगों का बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया.